focused on a particular subject more, but I chose areas of interest for me with respect to contemporary issues. And then I went and revised them a little more thoroughly than I would other subjects. So actually, I came to Focus magazine a little late. I wish I had read about it a little earlier. But I think it really helped me narrow down my preparation when it came to, current affairs, especially. Focus allows you to just pick and choose areas that you want to put attention. It was my first interview at IAS. So my interview was a little bit of a challenge for me as I put it myself, because it was the first interview I was ever appearing for. I never even appeared for a job interview before this. And it can get a little challenging in your head because you're stressed about the fact that there are going to be 5 people who are experts, who are so experienced, and they are going to sit there and judge you and ask you questions. So that can get a little intimidating. Sort of what happened to me at Rao's IAS interview as well. It was a good experience. It was a little scary. It was a little intimidating. But the feedback that I got early on in my preparation really allowed me to structure my preparation going forward. What to do and how to do it. To the interview I gave at Rao's.
Hello everyone, today we have Miss Pallavi Mishra, who has scored rank 73 in this year's UPSC examination. Now she hails from Bhopal, but she's a lawyer and she has taken law as an optional, and this was her second attempt in which she has cracked this examination in a very significant manner, scoring one of the top ranks, and she's expected to get IAS. Now let's talk to Pallavi herself and let her do the talking. So Pallavi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
So Pallavi, tell me something about your motivation to become civil servant. So I have somewhere I've seen already. You said that you started to prepare a little late. So how did the motivation came in, and then what kept you motivated in this journey as well?
Sir, I think, as you said, I came to this exam a little later. But prior to that, I had cognizance of the fact that I wanted to be in the public service sphere. So it could have been as a lawyer, as a litigator, or it could have been as a part of a non-governmental organization that had become sort of my primary focus in law school. And I wanted to try a lot of different things in law school. So I got into the corporate law cycle as well. I got a job and I was primarily focused on that. But when COVID hit, I came to face the reality of a lot of a lot of people in our society, in the country itself. And I realized watching my elder brother, who himself is an IPS officer, work day in and day out to help people. I realized that this opportunity gives you such a significant platform to transform people's lives in a way that no other opportunity can give you.
Very true.
That's why I realized that perhaps if I do want to enter this sphere, if this is what I want to do with my life, then this might be the best platform for me to do it now.
So you somehow you claim that you started to prepare a little late, but in your very first attempt you clear prelims as well, isn't it? So what was your approach? Because clearing prelims is again a tough challenge. Just looking at the papers in 21 and 22, we see that paper has become tougher than what it was previously. So what was your approach or strategy for the prelims examination?
Sir, I think that I used the fact that I came to this exam a little late as a part of my strategy for my prelims first year, because I knew that I didn't have too much time to spend on completing the syllabus. So I made it a part of my schedule to do tests and to solve questions while I was completing the syllabus itself. And I think that lent a lot towards the end of the preparation. So while I would read a particular subject or a particular topic from the very static course book list that almost everyone follows for prelims, I would then go on to solve a lot of sectional tests on the topics. And I think that helped me revise issues faster. It helped me revise subjects much faster. And it also sort of put me in that question answer mindset that sometimes takes a little bit of time to get into. So I think that was a part of my strategy that, looking back, at it, I think, really lent itself to me being able to clear prelims in a couple of months itself.
Now, when you look at the prelims examination, since you have narrowed down to the point very clearly where you're focusing on testing and revising it, but prelims, when you look at it, it has actually multiple subject. So there are multiple subjects like polity, like economy, like geography. So how did you find balance when you were preparing for the examination, especially from the perspective of prelims?
So I think that my first priority was to complete the syllabus as fast as I could while also
Okay.
doing the tests. So in the first half of my preparation, I was able to do that. And then afterwards, I think I focused a lot on current affairs based static revision.
Yes.
So areas that I thought were current or were important in contemporary times, I would go back and read their static versions a little more. So it's not
Okay.
like I focused on a particular subject more, but I chose areas of interest for me with respect to contemporary issues. And then I went and revised them a little more thoroughly than I would other subjects.
Now you've talked about current affairs, and we are very happy that you share a wonderful bond with us, Rao's IAS, in terms of Focus Magazine, the current affairs magazine. So tell us how Focus Magazine helped you in this entire journey of yours in terms of handling current affairs.
So actually, I came to Focus Magazine a little late. I wish I had read about it a little earlier. But I think it really helped me narrow down my preparation when it came to, current affairs, especially a little later in the year for my mains preparation, especially. And I think it's a very good, very important tool or instrument that you can have in your back pocket. Because the preparation for current affairs can become, it can really go quite astray. It's such a vast area. It's so dynamic that you never really truly know what to focus on. And I think the name aptly describes it. Focus allows you to just pick and choose areas that you want to put attention
to. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, staying still glued to the topic of prelims. Now, one of the things that people now have seen as a big challenge is CSAT as well. So, how did you manage to glide over CSAT easily? What was your approach and strategy?
Sir, I think that CSAT for me was not too big of a challenge because I studied 12th till I studied mathematics till 12th grade, and I appeared for CLAT examinations after my master's. Now, a lot of the syllabus overlaps with the CSAT syllabus as well. So for me, essentially, it was an exercise in revising what I already knew. That cut down a lot on the amount of time that I had to spend for CSAT. In addition to that, I think I focused on collating a bunch of formulas for mathematics that I could quickly revise on the D-Day. And instead of joining a targeted test series, I just solved the past 5-year question papers for CSAT. For me, I think for the years that I appeared for, that was sufficient preparation for CSAT. But looking at this recent CSAT paper, I think students and aspirants need to, have a more targeted strategy. I was lucky to have skated through without that.
That's wonderful. I think that's very important for all of us to understand. At the same time, I would say you should have a very project-wise approach in terms of CSAT as well. You need to understand what is required to qualify, get the requisite things proper in the place. And of course, a lot of practice is involved. Once you get this thing done, CSAT becomes easier. Ultimately, it's a qualifying paper.
Exactly. That was my approach as well.
Now, moving forward to mains, I will talk about few interesting things. First and foremost, your optional was law, which is very evident. The kind of education that you've already received and the kind of laurels that you have brought for yourself and for the entire family. So it would be a no-brainer for me to ask, was law an easy optional for you, or many people complain that law is very lengthy? So any kind of apprehension that were bothering you when you were choosing law as an optional?
So I think that I didn't have an option really, because with the kind of timeline that I'd set for myself, law was the only obvious choice. If you do want to change an optional from your undergrad, I think you need to give it sufficient amount of time to study that subject. And since I didn't have it, I thought law was the most obvious and the most organic choice for me. Now, again, when it comes to comparisons with other optional subjects, I think it's a little apparent that perhaps the marking in law optional is not as liberal in, let's say, other optional subjects. But again, I don't have a lot of, scope to compare it with others. I can tell you about my experience with law, which was that it's extremely vast. You can get a bit dynamic. So you have to be on your toes. You have to be up to date with current affairs and the questions that can be asked. But I think, again, if you are able to strategize well with law, And I think my primary focus in that strategy was to reduce uncertainty as much as possible when it came to syllabus preparation and answer writing. Then I think that it's not too uphill of a battle. You can do it.
Mhm. Now, when we talk about laws and optional, one of the things that is coming to my mind is how did you handle ethics as a paper? Because somehow I feel people with law background might be having few extra, points to write when they're going for ethics. So, what was your approach for ethics, and did law optional help you in that?
Sir, I specifically focused on ethics because after my first attempt, I realized in my first attempt, I actually did not focus on ethics at all
Okay.
because I'd written just 2 or 3 tests and I thought, this is perhaps sufficient for this
Mhm.
paper. And I scored decent enough in my first attempt and I realized, okay, perhaps I can make this a strength of mine. So in my
Okay.
second attempt, I had a very targeted strategy when it came to ethics. And as you said, law optional lends a lot to your
Mhm.
preparation for GS4 as well, as
Mhm.
well as your preparation for GS2. So
Mhm.
you know much more when it comes to the technical aspects of the legal areas. And of
Mhm.
course, legality is essential to ethics as well. So I think
Mhm.
in that sense, my law background helped me quite a bit. But then again,
Mhm.
while writing answers, I had to make sure to not write it as a lawyer. So
Mhm.
I had to work on that aspect as well to write it in a generalist fashion, to focus on the core of the values behind the law instead of just on the technical aspects. But of course, it really did help me quite a bit.
I believe that's more like awareness for the examination and what you're going to appear. Optional paper has to be different from your general studies paper, and I think that is what you wanted to say as well.
Right.
Now, just as we talk about ethics, the second big topic or big paper, which is also called as rank making paper, is essay. So, what was your approach for essay? How did you prepare yourself? When did you start writing as well? So, I know lawyers write a lot, but writing an essay is a different ball game. So, how did you prepare yourself for essay?
So for essay, I joined a targeted test series, and I thought,
Okay.
these 6 essays that I write for this test series is going to be
Okay.
sufficient for me. And
Okay.
so that was my primary focus. I just wanted to write as many essays as I possibly could. I went back
Mhm.
and looked at a couple of past year questions on essay itself, and I realized that there is no set pattern that
Mhm.
you can rely on. So I
Mhm.
think a dynamic approach to your preparation is the best outcome that you can hope for when it comes to essay. So that was my
Mhm.
strategy as well. I wanted to be prepared for both a philosophical type of essay or a GS type of essay. And I made
Mhm.
sure to practice both of them adequately. So I
Okay.
wrote them and I submitted them for testing and review. And I tried to inculcate as much feedback as I possibly could in my final attempt. But I
Okay.
would say that I focused on it much less than I did on my GS subjects.
Okay. Now, when you talk about GS, everyone talks about how did they manage paper one, paper two, paper three. Since we're probably talking about GS paper four, what is the GS topic that you do not like to study? Is there any?
A GS topic that I don't like to study.
Yeah.
Uh, so I wouldn't say I don't like to study it, but I think I will say I'm a little scared of it, which I would say would be science and technology, because
Okay.
it's not, of course, my background, it's not my forte, and it can
Mhm.
get a little technical and it's very dynamic. It's so
Mhm.
unexpected when a question on that comes up that it's something you can't anticipate for. So I think that was the one area that I was very scared of.
Now, here's my question. This question is coming from the particular fact that many students feel that we do not feel comfortable in studying this, that, or whatsoever. So, when you talk about science and technology not being your forte or something that you do not like to study as much, how did you prepare yourself for science? Because the kind of rank that you have, the kind of marks that you have done reasonably well in science and technology as well, I guess. So, what was your way of handling science and technology when you do not like it as much as other topics?
Sir, I think my first focus when it came to a subject like science specifically is to sort of revise your basics. I had
Mhm.
done science in my high school, so
Mhm.
my first priority was to sort of revise my own textbook, NCRT textbooks, to just have a
Mhm.
foundational understanding of what the subject is all about. Now, in addition to that, what I think I focused on with science and tech is I went over past year questions. I made
Mhm.
a complete list of all of the questions of science and tech that were asked in the past 10 years. I isolated
Mhm.
some of the areas that were important or I think were also important currently. And then I started preparing answers on those areas. So I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to hedge as much as possible. So for instance, if a question came on biotechnology, I would have an introduction and a conclusion all ready to go. I would have 5 points ready in an answer format in my notes. There were very few notes that I made, but science and tech was an area where I did make notes.
I think the biotechnology point that you highlighted, actually, it was a question, the mains examination as well. There was a question. And when you have already prepared notes in that manner, I think you should definitely talk about your note making skill as well. Because what I can normally understand, that students see answer writing more as an art, not as a skill. But in your case, what I can understand clearly is that you have done answer writing in terms of structuring yourself beforehand and putting knowledge bites as and when required. So, what was your approach for notes making, especially from the perspective of mains?
So, as I said, I made very few notes, but the notes I did make were in areas that I was a little uncomfortable with, or areas that weren't very intuitive for me. So, science and tech was one of those areas because I hadn't read it in my undergrad. It was far removed from the sort of humanities undergrad that I'd done in law. It was not a BA subject that we've done in law school as well. So my approach was to basically condense information as much as possible so that I could recreate it in my answers. I always say that, mains is just a 250 mark game, 250 words.
Yes.
So you don't need to know a lot of things. You just need to be able to write a lot of things that make it seem like you know enough. You're not knowing enough. You have to be a generalist when it comes to these answers. So my strategy was in areas that were uncomfortable for me to note down notes in a way that would allow me to recreate them in my answer. As I said, I would sort of make them in an answer fashion only. But when it comes to other topics, I would note only data sets that I wanted to put in my answers, data points, and examples. So the conceptual understanding or the conceptual definitional things that you want to write, I didn't make notes of those. But the embellishments that you would put in your mains answers, the data sets that you would put in, or the examples, that is the thing that I focused on in my.
So basically, you first got structure right in your mind, and then you use data to basically give more knowledge to your answers in that sense. As you just mentioned, make you look as if you know many things.
I will know enough, right?
Yeah, know enough.
I always call it an embellishment to my answers.
Yes.
The basics are there, the structure is there, the foundation is there. It just makes it, it substantiates your point of view also. So I think that is what I would use these for.
Of course. Now let's move towards the interview program as well. You were part of an interview guidance program, and I think that interview guidance program was recommended to you by Vaishali Singh, who also scored rank 8, and she was your senior in National University. So tell us about your experience for the interview guidance program, and how did you prepare yourself for the actual interview?
So my interview was a little bit of a challenge for me, as I put it myself, because it was the first interview I was ever appearing for. I never even appeared for a job interview before this. And it can get a little challenging in your head because you're stressed about the fact that there are going to be 5 people who are experts, who are so experienced, and they are going to sit there and judge you and ask you questions. So that can get a little intimidating. But I think my focus was, when it came to interview preparation, was to be thorough with my DAF. To know my DAF in and out firstly, because I believed that is an area where I could not afford to say I don't know. So first focus was completing my DAF as thoroughly as possible. Then my second focus was to be as thorough in current affairs as I possibly could be. So these 2 areas I wanted to prepare for as much as possible, because other than these 2 areas, you can always say I am not well versed in this area, or I don't know this topic, and that's okay because you can't know and everywhere. So that is how I sort of structured my interview prep as well.
And how was the experience here at Rouse IAS when you came for the interview?
It was my first interview at Rouse IAS, and I think I was sort of in a slumber. You get into a slumber after your mains preparation. You clear mains and suddenly you're jerked awake. That's sort of what happened to me at Rouse IAS interview as well. It was a good experience. It was a little scary. It was a little intimidating. But the feedback that I got
Yeah.
I gave this interview in December and my actual interview was in April. But the feedback I got early on in my preparation really allowed me to structure my preparation going forward. So I
Mm-hmm.
would attribute that, just being able to wrap my head around what to do and how to do it, a
Mm-hmm.
lot to the interview I gave at Rouse.
Wonderful. I think you were also looking for an interview which can shock you
Yes,
out of your slumber as well, and that's why that kind of experience has helped you in terms of doing better.
of course.
Now, one personal question that I would like to ask. Of course, your brother is also an IPS officer, and now you have cracked the IAS. So, is there any kind of sibling rivalry which is going on brewing in your family that the daughters have done better than sons, something like that?
No, sir, that's very funny, but not yet, I would say, because I very open about the fact that I owe my entire success to my brother. He's the
Okay,
one
wonderful.
who motivated me in the beginning to write this exam, to attempt it. I didn't
Hmm.
attend any coaching classes. I did
Hmm.
everything on my own, and I was only able to do it because I knew that I had my brother standing behind me. He
Of
was the
course.
one who initiated me into the process, especially after my first failed attempt at mains. I was
Hmm.
heartbroken and I felt, I have no self confidence. And
Hmm.
he was the one who came back, sat with me, analyzed my mistakes, where I was weak, where I was strong, and sort of restructured my game plan. So I
Hmm.
would say that I owe my success entirely to him.
Hmm. That's wonderful. That's very nice of you to say these words. But one more thing, actually, I came across an article recently, which actually has caught my attention. And that article talks about increased percentage of women getting successful in the UPSC examination. You have done this feat yourself. So, what do you think is the reason that percentage has jumped somewhere from 25, 26% to 34% now? More women candidates are getting selected. They're getting top ranks. If we look this year, the first four are women candidates. So, what do you think is the reason for women getting more successful in this particular examination? Is there any system or anything that we can understand?
Sir, I think that, of course, it's a very notable and laudable fact that 34% of aspirants who have qualified this year are women. But I
Hmm.
hope that we don't start looking at it as a pattern or
Hmm.
something that makes us complacent, because just until last year, the number was hovering around 20%. So I
Hmm.
think it would suit us a little more to treat this as a one-off phenomena, so that we don't get complacent when it comes to educating our girls, motivating our girls. But I
Hmm.
think it also is a testament to the fact that our women in this country are very resilient. That even
Yes.
when shouldering so many, multiplicity of responsibilities when it comes to the household, when it comes to familial relations, and
Hmm.
battling so many societal prejudices that women do on a daily basis, they have been
Hmm.
able to focus so much on an exam that takes out so much from you, that takes so much from you. And
Hmm.
so I think it's commendable that the top four positions in this examination, that's considered to be one of the toughest in the country and even in the world, are now
Hmm.
occupied by women. I'm actually very excited to meet all of them and go through training together with them.
That will be wonderful, actually. I think that, especially when you look into the situation, I think women are very focused. They're very resilient, as I already mentioned. And they are no less smart or intelligent than anyone else. If they are not more intelligent than boys, they're no less intelligent than boys as well, or men in that case. So I think it's more about the kind of opportunity that we are getting, the more amount of effort that we are putting in, and the kind of trust parents and family members show in the daughters of the family, which is
I
actually
think,
helping us
I
all.
think one more point that I think
Yeah.
is a little unique when it comes to female aspirants is that their emotional quotient is a little higher than most men.
I accept that. I accept that.
Because of your socialization, I would say. And this
Hmm.
is kind of an examination that really tests your emotional quotient as well. It tests your analytical skills when it comes to it comes to all exams, the essay paper, the GS papers, especially ethics. So I
Hmm.
think that also allows, women who work hard at this exam to, tap into that resource that they have. So I think that might be a reason why we see women doing better and better.
Of course, I will fully agree with you. And of course, women have proved this fact. So no one can deny this reality. And I believe that there are many more milestones that you as an individual as well as a group which represents women has to achieve, and you will definitely achieve all those beautiful milestones. From the entire team of Rouse IAS, we wish you all the very best. You will be a wonderful officer, which this country need and deserves as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind words and your show of confidence. It means a lot.